What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the Twin Suns Podcast YouTube channel. We want to talk today about some spoilers. So today we got the fringe spoilers from the other regions that won't be getting champions this release. So yesterday we got Zillion from Shurima, but now we got a few other cards that I'm going to take you through. So up first here is Shadow Isles getting a really spicy card. And I will say that all of these cards, they're normally really fun cards because you're only going to get one or two per region that aren't getting a champion in these smaller releases. So they try to make those cards pretty spicy, so they actually have a pretty big effect. They can open up some archetypes, they can give love to old archetypes or anything like that. So expect these cards to be pretty cool every time the release comes. They've always been pretty neat. Not all of them have seen play. Some have been very memey, but some have been very solid. So first is the Wings in the Wave, which is a 1-drop with a play effect. It's a 0/1. When you play it, you either can choose First Wave or Last Wind. So essentially what these are is First Wave is an 0/1 body that summons a Prey. A Prey is another 0/1 body. So 1 mana for 2 0/1 bodies. That's great in Shadow Isles. We're already seeing how good Slay can be and how good self-killing effects can be with Nasus and Thresh. More bodies on board means you can level up Thresh quicker as well, so that's really cool. On the other side of that, you can turn him into a 3/3 for 1, and to play it, you kill an ally. So if you need to kill your Cursed Keeper and you have the Wings in the Wave in hand, you can turn yourself into a 3/3, kill your Cursed Keeper, kill your Undying, kill whatever you want to kill with that, and make a 3/3 body. So you get a Slay with that, and you get a 3/3 body. Functions a lot like the Butcher. So really this kind of goes down to, will this take the Butcher's spot in decks? And it's possible. It's a really interesting card. And it does cost 1 mana. Butcher being 0 allows you to, on turn 2, play Cursed Keeper and Butcher, and that's a massive turn, especially if you played the Bakai Reaper first. It's a ton of damage, so I don't think it's going to take over for the Butcher, in my opinion, but I do think it offers this interesting flexibility that the Butcher doesn't have, because it does have this option to give another body, or later in the game, if you just need it to be a Slay, you can do that as well. So it's very flexible, very interesting. I don't think it's going to immediately replace Butcher in most lists, but I do think it might find a couple slots in like Rush style decks. And also more bodies help Shadow Isles with Prankster and Cursed Keeper. So those type of decks, yeah, it'll go in there. But Shadow Isles is a very competitive 1-drop spot. I mean, Hapless Aristocrat, Warden's Prey, you have the Bark Beast, and then when you're normally pairing it with Shurima or something like that, you get all their really good 1-drops too. So bit of a risk there for me, but I think it's a solid card. Next, we have the Adaptatron 3000, which is a 1/3 1-drop with the Tech Tribe. That's only been seen so far on Heimer's turrets. So that's the only other place the Tech Tribe is on, and when you summon a Tech, you share keywords. This thing gains its keywords. So kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge Heimerdinger player, but a 1-drop 1/3 is pretty good stats that we don't often see in this game. So I'm excited to see that, a little bit more of that, a little bit more stat variation. But it gives a little bit of love to Heimer, which is always needed. I mean, he's got a pretty harsh nerf, took him out of the meta because, we moved the elusive turret to 6 cost instead of 3 cost. And since then, he hasn't seen a ton of play. But, I mean, this is kind of an interesting way to put a body out there and possibly, it can gain some cool keywords and be a 1/3. But I don't think it does enough to make Heimer relevant or anything like that. But it's still a cool card. This next one's really sweet, the Thrashing Snapper. It's really cool because it's actually the turtle from Ionia, the 2/5 or the 5/2. He's also one of the Guardians as well. It's like a captured version of that for Noxus, which is just so cool to me. And the full art of that is like amazing looking. It's really sweet. But this is a 2/1 1-drop, so another Noxus 1-drop. I mean, Noxus has crazy powerful 1-drops. Here's another one. When an enemy blocks, give me +3/+0 this round. So he has a 5 attack if he is blocked. So if he's just going to the Nexus, he's 2 damage. If he does get blocked, he's a 5 attack. And that obviously matters because you can get an early reputation gain from that. But your opponent can also just decide to take 2 damage turn 1, and then you might have to use this for a chump blocker eventually, or you could just attack again with it. And if they ever chump block it, it's going to be 5 attack, and it's going to help you get your reputation quicker. Pretty interesting card, in my opinion. Like I said, I really love the lore behind the card, but I think it's really sweet because I think Reputation's pretty decent. I think it needs a little bit more love. I think this is a good step toward that love that it kind of needs. It's a 5 attack unit on turn 1 if, they defend against it. And if they don't, then you're just dealing some Nexus damage. But most likely, eventually, they're going to have to defend against this, or they're going to take a bunch of damage over, 2, 3, 4 turns. And you're gonna do extra damage, and sure, if not, that's fine too. I'm a little higher on this card than I think a lot of people were. I like Reputation. I think it's actually pretty decent, and I think it's a couple cards away from being like really good. So I'm excited about it. Next we have Bone Skewer, which is really sweet. It's this like awesome harpoon looking thing. It's a 2-cost fast spell from Bilgewater, and it is an ally strikes an enemy, then moves to the top of your deck. So that's pretty interesting. So you get to strike an enemy, but then you have to move to the top of your deck. Now, they don't strike you back. You won't die from this. There's weird interactions where you can do this with an ephemeral unit, and they'll still get put to the top of your deck first, most likely, instead of dying. Possibly, but there is the then condition in this, so it might not work like that. That's how ephemeral, like the flight and ephemeral Katarina work. So we'll have to see on that instance, but since this says then move, it might not. But still, this is an interesting card. People were talking today about it functioning in deep, which is kind of interesting, just to get extra triggers. You can attack, something with this, like your Deadbloom Wanderer, the 3/2 with lifesteal. You can get 3 lifesteal. It doesn't die, but it goes to the top of your deck, and then when you play it again, you get the additional toss effect. Really good with that card. It's just really good because it's fast speed. So you can counter so many different things with it, which for 2 mana is just amazing. I mean, you can counter Atrocity with it, just if they're and it depends if their unit's massive. But even if you have Nautilus, you can still strike it, and then you got to put your Nautilus on top. But okay, it works with deep in a lot of ways, just because you want to get that fish back on top of your deck, so you can obliterate more things with the Obliterate Fish. Pretty cool card. It's definitely outside of what Bilgewater normally has, and I think it's an interesting tool that can open up Bilgewater a little bit more. So I'm a big fan of Bone Skewer. The charion sump workers are crazy. Maybe my favorite card from this release here. Definitely my favorite of the ones we've talked about so far. It's a 2-drop 1/2, so weak stats with elusive and Piltover and Zaun. When you summon another charion sump worker, you obliterate this one, and you transform the allied sump worker and all other sump workers into sump work posses. So essentially, when you have this unit on the board and you play another one, you kill this unit, and then you transform all of the other ones into posses. So you have to sacrifice one to then get this next unit. And the next unit to the right of that is the Sump Work Posse, who is a 2-drop 4/2 elusive. So massive stats for a 2-drop at 4/2 with elusive, and attack, deal 1 to enemies and the enemy nexus. So it has the same ability as Zillion's Time Bombs or even Red Card, which is crazy. And it's a skill, so it can get buffed. And do, a ton of damage with Funsmith, with Siren. I made a meme about Siren today doing extra damage. Pretty crazy card, and it's elusive. It's a ton of damage. It looks like a meme on the surface, kind of like most Piltover things kind of do at first. I don't think this one's that much of a meme. I mean, there's already people talking about Shadow Isles, and Shadow Isles can go really well with this, because you're going to need to find 2 of them to make it worth it. So how can you copy them? Well, within Piltover and Zaun, you already have the card that can copy Iterative Improvement. You can copy this unit, give it +1/+1. You already have that accessible, so you can do that for 2 mana. But you also have Stalking Shadows, Fading Memories, and all these other cards in Shadow Isles that can really help you just mass this. And Shadow Isles already has seen tons of play in burn decks with Piltover and Zaun. You can do the Prankster route, you can just do Boom Bots, and you can do just, very aggressive early games and just Doom Beasts and just really push through a ton of damage. So I think this card's not a meme. I think this card's actually really, really good. Succumb to the Cold is a 4-cost burst spell from Freljord. It is Frostbite an enemy and summon a Frozen Thrall. When Lysandra came out, I think we were just talking about this on the cast. When Lysandra came out, people were interested in the Frozen Thralls, and realistically, we haven't really seen that many Frozen Thralls. Most Lysandra games end via the Watcher. And if the Watcher ever gets touched or nerfed, it could change. But for now, most games end with the Watcher. So the Frozen Thrall theme, and they are introducing a lot of advance in this set. A lot of the Shuriman cards that they teased had advanced. or advance, which you can expedite how quick you're going to have your landmarks burst open with countdown. So the Frozen Thralls are a little bit more interesting now, but 4 mana to frostbite something and then summon a Frozen Thrall doesn't interest me all that much. Lysandra already summons one herself. If you're really going for Frozen Thralls, you can just play the Drakthorn guy who's going to summon one himself and make them all pop open at 4. To me, I don't see Succumb to the Cold making a deck because of that. The next card is a Demacian card. It's the Arden Tracker. It's a 6-drop 3/5 with Scout. And it is an elite as well. And when you summon an elite, reduce its cost by 1. So it has the same effect as that other card. That's a 4-drop 3/3. Except this thing's stats are pretty legit. I mean, 3/5 are on a 6-drop, but it's better than a 3/3. It costs 2 more, but it's going to eventually get cheaper and cheaper. But it has Scout and Elite. That's solid. You want a lot of health when you have Scout because you can get in and do multiple attacks. So this is a pretty solid Elite card. You know, Elite's gotten a lot of support and hasn't really seen a whole lot more play, but I think this one's pretty decent. I think it definitely is better than the 4-drop 3/3. I think you would just play this over that if you're playing Elites. So I'm a fan of this one in general. The Scout keyword's very good. It is, you know, Scout combined with Rallying. It's one of the ways Elites can end games. That's kind of their biggest struggle. They don't have Overwhelm. They don't have anything to really end the game other than massive attacks consistently. So being able to attack, get a chump blocker out, and then attack again with Scouts and Elites is big. So I think it's solid. Monster Harpoon is probably one of my next favorites. I love this card in Bilge. It's another fast card, 6 attack, or 6 cost mana, but it has Plunder, so it only can cost 3 when you plunder it, and it just deals 5 to a unit. So it's just quick removal in Bilgewater. And before we had like Scrap Shot, you know, like deal 7, toss 3, like to somebody, and things like that. Not all that great. Plunder has needed some love for a while now, so I really like that this has Plunder. And it reduces its cost by 3. So if you just, you know, use a Ballistic Bot, use a Time Bomb, use a Warning Shot, anything like that to ping the enemy Nexus, now you have a 3-cost deal 5 at fast speed. That's very good. Very, very good. At 6, yeah, it's not that great. But ideally, you want to get trigger Plunder often in a Plunder deck. I think in a Plunder deck, you're going to slot this in 100%. At least 2 of, maybe 3 of, because it's really good removal. It can, to any unit, it's not just like follower restricted. It can be champions. I think this is really good fast speed removal. And combining it with Bone Skewer, it just offers this fast speed removal that Bilge didn't have a great, like they had Make It Rain and, you know, things like that. But they didn't have like a great, like just target one unit, blast it off the board. And these are 2 things that do that now in Bilge. So I really like that. You know, I know they have a couple cards that can, but realistically they're not all that great. These ones are both pretty playable. The Incisive Tactician is pretty interesting. It's a 6-drop 4/5 Noxus card with Reputation. It costs 6, so it gets dropped down by 2 mana. And when I'm summoned, Rally. It's going to compete with Shunpo for a lot of deck slots. Shunpo's a 5 mana, deal 2 and Rally. You don't have to worry about having, you know, matched your Reputation, and you get to deal 2 damage and then Rally. Yes, this does give you a 4/5 body for 6, hopefully. Yeah, it's not bad. Like, I mean, if you're really doing some Battering Ram trickery or, you know, Darius and Apprehend and trying to get Reputation going and rallies, I mean, it can be devastating, but I think it's just got a lot to compete with Shunpo already. And if it does cost 8, yeah, it's probably not the best thing, in my opinion. I don't know. It does feel a lot like the Citrus Courier, the 4/5, that lets you heal your Nexus and your allies and rally at 6 cost. 4/5, same stats here, 6 cost ideally, but yeah, I'm not super sold on this one. I'm not sold on either of the Noxus cards, although I like the Thrashing Snapper a little bit better. 2 more cards here. We got Buried in Ice. Buried in Ice is pretty interesting. It obliterates each enemy to summon a Frozen Tome in its place. So Frozen Tome is the same card that Entome summons, Entome creates with, which is Lysandra's champion spell, but it's a 9-cost slow spell. So it's an interesting tool. It does offer Freljord a big, board-wide removal, like a massive strike, kind of like a Ruination, but it's 9 cost, just like Ruination is. And this is only temporary, right? The Frozen Tomes can actually pop, and then they get their exact unit back. So it's interesting. It does offer this cool aspect that maybe now you can further separate Freljord from Shadow Isles. You know, anytime there's a really good control deck, it's normally, you know, if it wasn't Karma, which we haven't seen that in a while, it's Freljord and Shadow Isles, right? We've seen it so many times. Freljord and Shadow Isles pair together so well. And this maybe allows you to play a little bit more of Ionia with Freljord, or just lets Freljord exist in a control style archetype and doesn't have to rely on like getting a Ruination or something like that from Shadow Isles. Now they have their own slightly, similar card to Ruination here. And, it just does enemies, which is important. It obliterates each enemy to summon a Frozen Tome. Doesn't hurt your own allies like Ruination does. So that is a big difference that could very well end up being very significant. The last card is just pure epicness, but I do think it's not that great personally. But it is it's hilarious and epic. It's Cytherea, the fourth version of Cytherea. She started as a squire. She's climbed all the way up. Cytherea, Lady of the Clouds. She's like riding on this crazy dragon. Absolutely crazy. It is a 10 cost, 10/10 elite with Challenger. When I'm summoned, double other allies' power and health and grant them Challenger. So you get to absolutely, increase your board in an insane value, right? Like redoubled value is a card that had this similar effect. Well, now this lets you do that to your whole board just on summon. So you get your entire board is just absolutely ripped, and they all get Challenger, which is great. But again, is this game ending? No, so you're going to need to play this and hopefully have 3 mana for Relentless Pursuit so you can rally again to win the game. Or it might just be enough to win the game. If they have chump blockers, it's not. The big thing with elites and things like this is they lack a way to end because they don't have Overwhelm. They don't have Elusive. The best thing they have is Fearsome, but you have to have 6-drop Cytherea out, Cytherea the Bold. So this just kind of is a little bit win more, in my opinion, but I absolutely love that Cytherea's Arc has come all the way through. This card's super sweet, lore-wise and everything like that. And, it's cool. I just don't think it's going to see a whole lot of play. This was all done on Runeterra CCG's website here, guys. You can even check out the full arts right here. So if you haven't checked their website out, check it out. You can start deck building right now as I'm speaking on this website with all the cards. As soon as the cards get released, you can start deck building with them. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and we'll catch you next time.